And for more, I'm joined now by Caroline Modaressy-Tehrani. She's a journalist and an Iran-US expert. She's been covering Iran for over a decade now. And she joins us from Atlanta. Good to have you on the program, Caroline. So,
thanks, Monica.
When you are talking with Iranians living in the United States, what do they say? How do they feel about this war unfolding back home?
Well, Monica, what I would say is that there is a lot of unity amongst Iranian Americans when it comes to their disdain for the regime, but there is increasing division amongst Iranian Americans about the way that the United States and Israel is litigating this war. There are a large number of Iranian Americans who are very concerned about the way that the United States is once again embroiled in a conflict overseas and attempting to regime change. You know, there are some reminiscence of Iraq there, and people are extremely wary of the intentions of the United States and, of course, of Israel. And then there are some others, particularly who are on the west coast of the country, who are far more open to the idea of the United States potentially being able to bring about some regime change. But I would say, Monica, as this conflict has continued now into a month, I'm increasingly hearing more and more people being very fearful that there will be not much left of the country and infrastructure for civilians if the war continues to go as it has been going.
Yeah, and I can imagine they are probably also fearful for their friends and family who may or may not still be in Iran. How do they manage to stay in touch with them, if at all?
Yeah, that's a really, really good question. And it sort of centers the humanity at all of this, which is that a lot of people who are here in the United States were exiled from Iran, may still have some family members in there. I'm certainly one of those people. And it's been extremely difficult to get in touch with loved ones. People are very, very anxious. A lot of people are staying up through the night to try and get hold of people. WhatsApp messages, Telegram messages tend to not always go through. Usually I'm in touch with people perhaps every 3 or 4 days, and it's because there has been an internet blackout across the country. That means the connectivity for Iranians inside Iran is extremely scarce. It's hovered around 1% for the last 3 weeks. And so obviously and understandably, people outside the country are really, really tearing their hair out, wondering, is my loved one safe? Have they been and have they fallen victim to one of these bombings that we've seen? And there's just a lot of anxiety as this war continues, Monica.
And of course, it's also very difficult then to somehow gauge the sentiment in the country outside of Iran. We keep hearing mixed messages. For one, negotiations being mentioned several times. At the same time, though, military build-up is continuing. How does the Iranian-American community view a possible risk of a ground war starting in Iran?
I think there's a lot of anxiety around that, Monica, understandably. As I mentioned, you know, the United States certainly has a very poor track record of any kind of intervention in this region in the Middle East. Obviously, there is a long history between Iran and the United States, you know, goes all the way back before the 1953 coup, which overthrew Mossadegh. And I think that there is a lot of anxiety that ground troops would ratchet up this already unending conflict. You know, there is no sort of fixed firm date in sight. And I think that also, Monica, for a lot of Americans as well, you know, these are Iranian Americans, a lot of Americans do not want this. This is a very unpopular war here in the United States. Americans are starting to feel the pain and pressure at the gas pump, and there's a lot of anxiety as we are kind of approaching the midterms as well from some Republicans that this war is going to lead to a shellacking for them in the midterms.
Now, let's just assume that a deal will be struck. Is there something like a best-case scenario for American Iranians? Because regime change at the moment doesn't look likely.
Yeah, I think that's a very good question. It's a difficult question, Monica, for a few reasons. One is that the majority of Iranians, not just outside of the country, inside the country, from the limited polling that we have stated that they want regime change. The how you get to the regime change is really the question that has caused so much of the fissure and fracturing amongst not just Iranians here in the United States, but also inside Iran as well. I always tell people that, look, this is a country of 92 million people. They are by no means a monolith. You are going to have, just as if you polled people inside Germany, it doesn't matter that they live in the same town, people have varying opinions and they might have allegiances or, to different political parties. It's no different just because people are Iranians. I will say that for a lot of people, a worst case scenario looks like an emboldened regime that is left in place, as it looks like it may be after the United States and Israel, or certainly the United States, pulls out. Because at the moment, what you have is an understandably paranoid and certainly more violent regime than you've had even in the recent past. Unless we not forget that in January, thousands of Iranians were killed when they took part in anti-government protests. And so I think that that's really a really big concern for a lot of Iranian Americans, which is what is going to happen, what is going to be left of the regime, and how are they going to inflict even more suffering on the Iranian people, coupled with the fact that Iranians are still at the threat of bombs by the United States and Israel.
All right. Well, journalist Caroline Modaressy-Tehrani joining us in Atlanta. Thank you so very much for your time.